welcome to Culture on I-24 News. I'm Oded Grober. Thank you so much for joining me. Today on our program, journalist and author Benny Ziffer will be right here in the studio. A portrait of Shai Maestro, an Israeli jazz phenomenon. And we'll see how holograms are bringing some surprising musicians back to the stage. Benny Ziffer is a journalist, author, and columnist. He edits the weekly culture and literature supplement for Haaretz newspaper, and has also written several novels. This week, he will open a series of meetings with authors at the French Institute in Tel Aviv, and that is as good an opportunity as any to invite him to our studio. Thanks for coming in, Benny.
Hi.
So with this series of events at the French Institute, give me a little bit of background about your connection to French culture. Where's that from?
Okay, I was born to a French-speaking family from Turkey. They have never seen France in their life, but they spoke French. They studied in French schools in Istanbul. Mm-hmm. And admired France and saw in France the mother of all cultures, and etc. etc. And I was raised up in such an atmosphere, and of course,
right,
it influenced me.
Yeah. Now, your book Among Us Levantines has just been published in France after it was published in Hebrew. Now, it's a travel book in the Middle East. You've traveled quite extensively in the region. What have you found? How do we Israelis fit here in this part of the earth?
Yeah, so this book is, in fact, is a search for our identity, or a sort of solution which is not the political one, mm-hmm. For perhaps a possible peace, but I'm not a politician. High. Yeah, okay. No, a way of living here and feeling part of the question that I ask myself all the time through that book is there a possibility to fit in this region? Do I as a person feel at home here?
Right.
And the thing was that the more I traveled to Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, etc., where I could go, I saw that the answer is yes, that I feel at home when I'm in Turkey, when I'm in Egypt. What does it say?
It's a surprising answer to some extent, because many Israelis feel like a European settlement in the Middle East, or some sort of variation.
Yeah, okay, so I think that once you get in touch with certain people who are like you, who are looking for something that is common to the region in this country.
Unites us?
What unites us is what I call the Levantinism, or whatever, the Levantine concept. The fact that you don't, everybody here in this east of the Mediterranean is a minority. You have a lot of minorities. You don't have majorities at all. And if all these minorities have something, and all these minorities, not if, they have something in common, is the fact that they don't have elsewhere to go. They hate each other. Everybody hates each other, but they are there. And you learn from traveling in other countries.
Yeah.
You learn the solutions that were found there, and slowly by slowly you begin to make a kind of textile to weave something that perhaps we can
be a part of.
Yeah.
We can be one thread at least.
Yeah.
All right, that's an interesting approach. You write a column for Haaretz newspaper. You deal with cultural issues, also political stuff sometimes, and it's always very pointy. I'm curious, how do you see your role? Are you a provocator? When you sit down to write the column, what do you hope to achieve?
My aim is always, every week, is to to shake a bit things that are stereotypes or things that are everybody thinks. I don't want people to wake up to be able to wake up at night and recite what is they should think. Okay, I don't want people to think what they should think, but. So, and that's my system. I'm trying to really to bring them to think on
a little different
from
but
what
you do it with such certainty. You always write as if you have the answer.
I know. I have the answer. The answer is once you doubt yourself, you get to conclusions that are more reasonable once you are. Really, you see things from a perspective.
Right.
So you see a lot of things that are repeating themselves in our...
So you have the certainty actually in order to create doubt? Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah.
Okay,
this is a
I'll
classical...
go with that.
Descartes said it before me.
Yeah.
But,
You recently wrote a column where you kind of said that things are not as bad as some people in the left present them. You don't think that there's been sort of a deterioration, sort of rising of intolerance in Israel in recent months, recent years, maybe?
I don't think so at all. And I'm really serious. Now I'm serious. I think that there's a panic in the left, and which is not justified at all, because it's not. The left thinks that there's a wave of, they said even neo-Nazism, Jewish neo-Nazism, which is really ridiculous, because you don't have ideologies anymore, not in the right and not in the left. So you have violence. You have it all year long and everywhere, and in the buses and on the
really
streets.
It's more an issue of perception.
Yeah, it's an issue of day-to-day life. It's not at all.
Well, it's a positive note. Let's end on a positive note.
Yeah,
Benny, thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you.
Let's keep going. At only 27 years old, Shai Maestro is already one of the main figures in contemporary Israeli jazz. After performing with known bass player Avishai Cohen, Shai is also quickly gaining worldwide recognition. He's about to embark on a solo tour of Europe, but before he leaves, David Gombin sat down with him, brought us this story.
He is only 27 years old, yet Shai Maestro is one of the top players in the world of Israeli jazz. At only 19, he became the pianist of celebrated jazz musician Avishai Cohen. But his musical journey began much earlier than that. At 5 years old, he began playing classical music. At the age of 8, he received lessons which until today remain present in his compositions.
Classical music has helped me tremendously. Technically, on the piano, to really dive in and learn to speak the language of the piano, it has so many components, and then you can use it. I use it constantly in jazz. At first, I was asked when I was a sophomore in high school. My ego spoke first and said, "Do you want to be a child prodigy?" But that meant leaving school. The high school principal and my mother both said to me, "Calm down, finish high school like everybody else." They put my personal development before my musical development, and I think it was the right decision.
That decision would change the course of his life. After high school, he met the great bass player Avishai Cohen.
I was 19 when Avishai called me and said, "I want a pianist for my trio. I can't promise anything, but I'd love you to come and play my music." I trained for 2 weeks. I didn't leave the piano, and when I came, I knew his whole repertoire. I think I wasn't good enough to join his band, but he apparently saw my seriousness, and he took the risk of giving me a chance. It was amazing. We played together for 5 years, and we made 4 albums. I learned a lot from him.
But after 5 years, he felt ready to stand on its own. He brought together 2 musician friends, Jorge Roedor and Ziv Ravitz, and the Shai Maestro trio was born. Immediately, they signed with Laboriette, the French jazz label. In 1 year, the trio released their second album, The Road to Ithaca. Inspired by literature, the name is a reference to the famous Greek poem by Constantine Cavafy.
My father gave me this poem before leaving for my first tour with Avishai. I think it's a beautiful poem, but its message is very simple. What matters is the path, not the destination.
We might still not know his destination, but jazz fans already know that Shai Maestro creates some beautiful notes on his musical journey.
Beautiful. In a moment, we'll hear about how the world took on the trend of reviving musicians through holograms. But first, a few cultural events from around the world.
In 1972, Japanese photographer Keiichi Tahara landed in Europe. He is an artist fascinated by light, known for his black and white photographs that he exhibited for the first time in color and in Polaroid. The European House of Photography in Paris displays 4 sets of aesthetic photographs, windows in between, portraits and shade, 4 sets to understand the progress of this sculpture of light. Between sensations caused by external and imagination that comes from within, with this Japanese artist, all is light, a retrospective to find at the MEP of Paris until November the 2nd. The Royal Academy of Arts presents The Lost Album, a retrospective of more than 400 original photographs taken between 1961 and 1967 by Dennis Hopper. The artist, actor, director had personally selected and edited the images for his first major exhibition at the Art Center of Fort Worth, Texas in 1970, and the vintage prints were rediscovered after his death in 2010. The exhibition mixes both his personal vision of America of the 60s and cultural dynamics of the time. The exhibition will run until October the 19th. The 6th annual Israeli Design Season in Holon opens on September the 10th. In the city's municipal galleries, the project is part of Holon's municipal vision of making the city the national focus of design and an international venue for innovation in the field. The events will include the Halon Holon, Window on Holon, which includes tours of galleries and cultural institutions. The tours, which are free of charge, will provide general background on the city and current exhibitions. The display will end on September 11th.
And now Daniel Campos is here in the studio to tell us about holograms and music.
Hello, Aded. How are you?
Daniel. I'm doing fine, thank you.
We're going to talk about some very different examples than what we're used to. When we speak about holograms, the example of Tupac, Eminem, Michael Jackson are the first things to come up.
Right.
But how is this trend affecting other countries around the world? That's what we're going to see in Egypt and Puerto Rico. I mean, everyone has a desire to bring back stars who have already left us, So this is actually very interesting. The one of Kulthum in Egypt, it's actually fascinating.
It's a beautiful video. Let's take a look and come back and hear some more. The ending there is beautiful. That's taking the fact that it's a hologram, not just trying to make it look as real as possible, but using the fact that it's hologram to give something extra.
And playing with people's feelings, Kulthum is leaving us again. It's really fascinating. I chatted with ND worker Issa Maldek, who told me this cost between $50,000 and $90,000 for 5 minutes for a hologram like this, which is very interesting.
Kulthum is well worth it.
Yeah, icon of Pan-Arab music. Then in Puerto Rico, they've revived salsa singer Hector Lavoe. Hector Lavoe died of HIV years ago, and there's a desire in the salsa scene to have him back.
Yeah, so we're gonna hopefully see him because that's still Kulthum, and in a minute we'll see him. So they revived him. Is it just as nice, or you think? I think it leaves something to be desired.
I would say the quality with less. Again, there's holograms of different prices. All that's up to the budget of the show. But again, the desire to bring him back, the greatest, we can call this salsa singer in the history of Latin music, Hector Lavoe. I think it shows that we all want to bring back against idols from the past.
We all have stuff we miss, no question about it. Let's keep going quickly.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Haile Selassie. It's been 40 years since the overthrow of the last emperor of Ethiopia. Haile Selassie, a very controversial figure, as you know, a man who loved luxury, and he cared a lot about his own image. A lot of books have been written about him. He, again, like any emperor, or we can call this even dictator, as some people call him, but he's the symbol of Rastafarianism. People in Jamaica, as we know, like Bob Marley used to call
yeah, he's a god incarnate. He's a god to them.
God to them, exactly. Yeah. And Haile Selassie claimed to be a descendant of King Solomon and Queen Sheba, and it's been 40 years since.
Well, his place in history is set. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, Oded.
Thank you at home for joining us as well. We're done for today. Please join us again tomorrow. We'll be right here.